There are few names more iconic in the world of gaming than the legendary Castlevania. The original game was launched all the way back in 1986 in Japan and later ported to cartridge for the NES and released in the US in 1987. Since then, a slew of sequels and spin-offs have been published over the past few decades, and as of 2006, the Castlevania franchise as a whole had sold over 20 million copies worldwide. Moreover, 1997's Castlevania Symphony of the Night is widely considered one of the greatest video games ever produced. In fact, along with Metroid, this particular release was so groundbreaking that it spawned the appropriately named and highly popular metroidvania subgenre. What really made Castlevania unique was its gothic horror setting, addictive gameplay, and epic boss fights, elements that contrasted starkly with the multiple brightly colored child-friendly games that were popular at the time. Then in 2018, the Metroidvania-inspired roguelite action platformer Dead Cells was released and received rave reviews from practically everyone who played it. Drawing heavily on the mechanics and themes seen in Castlevania games, Dead Cells features fast, frenetic combat, beautifully rendered environments, and an intuitive progression system that ensures the game's pace never dips below breakneck for too long. The game has proved so popular that every year since its initial launch, DLCs have been released, adding more content and environments to Dead Cells' already impressive offering. Given its enduring success and popularity, it was really just a matter of time before a DLC like the one dropped on March 6, 2023 became a thing. Yep, earlier this year, the Dead Cells Return to Castlevania DLC was released, which naturally had roguelite and Metroidvania fans all over swooning in their gaming chairs. And rightly so. Given the amazing reputation of both franchises, there was just no way this crossover would be anything short of completely epic. But is it perfect? Well, I'd like to tell you yes, but there are very few games that manage to pull off everything without a hitch. That said, Dead Cells Return to Castlevania is definitely a strong offering and one that's worth playing. Still not convinced? Okay then, let's delve a little deeper. Return to Castlevania is the biggest Dead Cells DLC so far and features 4 new biomes, 11 new enemies, and 3 new bosses from the Castlevania universe. So the story here is a pretty simple one. You come across some kind of gateway that leads to a dark, foreboding castle. You then meet a warrior by the name of Richter who beseeches you to help him deal with the incredible evil lurking within and outside of the castle's walls. Rather than carrying out this task out of a sense of moral duty, you really like the idea of awesome new loot and new challenges, so accept in the hopes of meeting and getting the chance to slay the elusive and terrifying Dracula. I mean, how tough can the guy actually be? So really what you have here is more or less the classic Castlevania experience, but the Dead Cells version. I for one am always happy to see games paying tribute to the material that served as their inspiration, and because of the fact that Dead Cells is such a great piece of gaming goodness, it makes this whole crossover that much more satisfying. One part of the Castlevania games that makes them truly memorable and iconic is their amazing soundtracks, and needless to say, the devs behind Dead Cells are clearly major fans of the score as well, since this DLC includes a staggering 51 original tracks from Castlevania. Yep, I'm talking Bloody Tears, Simon Belmont's theme, Divine Bloodlines, Vampire Killer, the works. The goodness doesn't end there though. There are also 12 of the most popular tracks from Castlevania that have been reimagined in the style of Dead Cells. So in total there are 63 different pieces of Castlevania music to enjoy here. I think on this basis alone I'd be more than willing to pay for and play this DLC. In many ways a game's soundtrack makes it what it is, so I'm very glad to see that a significant amount of time and effort has gone into producing Return to Castlevania's score. And of course, there's no way this would be a Castlevania crossover without the inclusion of some legendary weapons. In total, there are 14 armaments that you'll get to use, such as the Vampire Killer, Whip Sword, Death Scythe, Throwing Axe, and Morning Star. That's a very decent list of weapons that almost encompasses all of those seen across the Castlevania franchise. So once again, it's clear that Motion Twin and Evil Empire have gone to great lengths to ensure that the original Castlevania experience is thoroughly transposed into Dead Cells. There's little doubt that you'll need to become suitably adept at wielding these various implements of destruction since, as I mentioned earlier, there are 11 different enemies from Castlevania that you'll encounter in this DLC. This includes werewolves, both the dire and regular kind, armor knights, throwmasters, harpies, and mermen. I mean, this is Dracula's castle we're talking about. It would be a little bit weird if it wasn't inhabited by all manner of beasts and abominations, so you'll get more than a couple of chances to test your skills against these denizens of the dark. In truth though, these monsters are just the minions of a far more powerful force. The 3 bosses you'll encounter while playing through Return to Castlevania are Death, Dracula, and Dracula's final form. Getting to Dracula won't be easy, and defeating him will be even more challenging, but ultimately this is what your mission encompasses. Fortunately, you're not alone in your quest, as both Richter Belmont and Alucard will be there to guide you through Dracula's castle and even give you some formidable weapons to make the task a little easier. You'll find Death at the end of the defiled necropolis and Dracula in the Master's Keep. You can bet your bottom dollar that these locations will be well protected and that you're going to need all your wits about you if you hope to survive long enough to make it through. Obviously, Dracula's castle is far from small, and being a mysterious and ancient vampire, you know that there are all kinds of hidden areas and rooms for you to uncover during your quest. While it's always good to be curious, it doesn't mean that you can be reckless. Any game that entices you to look for secrets and bonus items will also do its best to ensure that your path towards special items aren't linear or pain-free. This is by no means a new mechanic or even something that's unique to Castlevania or Dead Cells, but it undoubtedly makes the whole experience feel a lot more immersive. Return to Castlevania uses its gothic motifs to their fullest and will constantly remind you that you're knee-deep in a vast dark fantasy world populated with all kinds of different horrors. Honestly, I wouldn't expect anything less, and certainly can't say I'd be satisfied without candlelit passageways, gloomy stairwells, and dusty old crypts. But as I mentioned earlier, while Dead Cells Return to Castlevania is affectionately done and plenty of fun, it's seemingly not perfect. As one fan points out, if you want to take on Dracula or play the Richter mode, you need to play through about 2/3 of the base Dead Cells game every run in order to get to Dracula's castle. And apparently if you go there too early, you end up fighting death instead and are effectively prevented from facing Dracula since you're allegedly only able to attempt the castle once per run. Another reviewer says that pathing and limited choices are also really problematic. In this sense, the issue with this DLC isn't the actual content or the game itself, but rather some of the considerations with regards to how it's interwoven into the base game. If all of this is indeed true, it's a major oversight on the part of the devs and something that tarnishes an otherwise excellent tribute to a legendary gaming franchise. It also appears that you can't face both Death and Dracula in a single run, which is really frustrating. Look, I think I get the logic here, but honestly, it just feels counterintuitive to me. For some reason, devs seem to think that gamers just have endless time to play additional content and replay the same areas over and over again. I honestly don't get it, but it does illustrate the problem with the general approach to downloadable content. The base game is designed in such a way that it's a complete experience, but then DLCs often change things up and actually kind of end up messing up the gameplay loop. I'm not singling out the Dead Cells devs, but it looks like they're guilty of this kind of rather thoughtless behavior as well, which is very, very unfortunate. If anything, it detracts from replayability and ends up frustrating gamers who will probably end up feeling like they got scammed. I'm sure this doesn't apply to everyone, but I don't blame anyone who finds this somewhat annoying. Fortunately, Return to Castlevania still has a great score overall, so it would seem that the vast majority of fans don't mind these oversights all that much, which is just lucky for the devs, I'd say. Another nice touch in this DLC is the inclusion of 20 different outfits that you can unlock. This means you can roleplay as your favorite characters from Castlevania such as Alucard, Simon Belmont, Trevor Belmont, and even Dracula himself. I wonder if old Drac would be flattered or agitated with your dressing up like him. Either way, if you feel like changing up your wardrobe, Return to Castlevania gives you this opportunity as well. It's a real shame with this DLC, because with just a little more forethought and planning, the execution could have been perfect. Despite the pathing and limited choices, this is still a great crossover with many well thought out nods to the Castlevania franchise. There's plenty of joy for gamers to extract from this offering, but if you really want to get every last dropout, you may have to be something of a masochist and also have a lot of time available in order to do so. Return to Castlevania definitely looks spectacular and plays nice and buttery smooth, but it's sadly bogged down by what I can only call some unfortunate choices and oversights on the part of the devs. If you're not dead set on multiple playthroughs and simply want to face Death and then Dracula, this shouldn't prove too much of a chore at the outset. However, if you're a completionist, then all I can say is best of luck to you. Dead Cells Return to Castlevania is available now on Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo Switch, PC, iOS, and Android. So that's it for this video, Metroidvania fans. Do you intend to play Dead Cells Return to Castlevania? And if you already have, what do you think of it? Let us know in the comments. Kindly hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for daily gaming, VR, and tech content. From me and the crew here at Metasquad, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Later!